Aloha and welcome everyone on behalf of Dimensions in Travel. We are delighted to have you joining us for today's journey to Hawaii, How to Go Now. This is the 29th in our travel agency series of virtual events, bringing interesting destinations and unique ways to experiencing them to you. I'm Diana St. James, and I'm one of the owners of Dimensions in Travel, along with Jill Romano. For the past 43 years, our travel agency has helped thousands of people explore the world. We offer these virtual events right now as a wonderful way for all of us to go somewhere while we wait to safely travel again. These talks help us stay connected with you, and it helps all of us here at Dimensions in Travel feel like we've gone somewhere, and we hope this does the same thing for you. Before we get started, I wanted to cover a couple of things. We are recording today's event, and you will get a link afterwards that you can forward to family and friends. You're all in listen only mode, and so your microphones are muted and your video cameras are off, and we'd appreciate it if you would keep them that way just in order to minimize distractions for everyone. And finally, you can ask questions, and I'm sure you may have some that can go into the chat box that's down below. We'll be doing a Q&A at the end, and you can type in your questions at any time though. During today's presentation to Hawaii, we are doing things a little bit differently, focusing not so much on the destination, but how to get to Hawaii and what it's like to visit the islands right now. You'll hear from travelers who've returned from Hawaii, how they manage the testing requirements and airport and hotel check-ins. You'll learn how to personalize your Hawaii trip, best airfares to buy, variety of accommodations available, the health protocols, dining options, and the role a travel advisor can take in smoothing the way for your next journey to Hawaii. But before we take you to Hawaii and help you get there, I want to introduce Jill Romano, my business partner, and she'll take it from there. Hi, Jill.
Hi, Diana. Aloha and aloha, everyone. We are so happy to have you all here today. Hawaii is truly one of my favorite places to visit, and I'm fortunate to have been several times in my travel career. Our family traveled over to Hawaii, to Maui in particular, in early January. So today we're all very excited to partner with our colleagues at Classic Vacations and to let you know how you can go now. Today, I'm delighted to introduce you to our great partners at Classic Vacations, Joseph Barney and Dave Ferran. Joseph is the strategic account manager for the greater Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Hawaii regions. He's lived in Los Angeles for over 17 years, but interestingly was born and raised in Detroit. His curiosity about the outside world led him into a position as an after-school intern at a local travel agency during high school, and he's been in the industry ever since. A little background: he studied travel and tourism management at Johnson and Wales University in Providence, Rhode Island. Sorry, Joseph, where he spent 4 wonderful years and then headed straight for the California sunshine upon graduation. Since then, he's worked for Crystal Cruises, a cruise charter company, Atlantis Events, and before joining Classic Vacations, did a little jaunt with Uniworld Boutique River Cruise Collection. When he's not working, he enjoys exploring the globe or simply visiting his parents, sister, and nieces on the East Coast. And our dear friend and colleague, Dave Ferran, who Diana and I have known for many years, is the head of sales at Classic Vacations and a 20+ year employee. Dave started in the call center before quickly entering sales as a business development manager in the Los Angeles area. From there, he moved into sales management, taking on the position of regional director, working with West Coast business development managers and top accounts like Dimensions and Travel. A graduate of UC Berkeley, he resides in San Francisco. That's when he's not traveling to his favorite place on earth, Hawaii. Dave has spent several weeks in the islands over the last few months, and today he will share his insights and firsthand experience with us. And so now it's my pleasure to turn the presentation over to Joseph and Dave. Mahalo.
Thank you.
Mahalo. Thank you so much, Jill, and thank you, Diana.
It's such a pleasure to be here with everyone today. Thank you so much for joining us. I want everyone to just sit back, relax, pretend you're on a beach in Hawaii or having a Mai Tai and watching the sunset. We're all going to take a nice little mental break right now. And that's why I wore my Aloha shirt. And I also noticed, I didn't plan this, but I have like lots of nice tropical foliage behind me because I've gotten really into houseplants during quarantine. So I guess it fits the motif today. But I just want to tell a little bit about our wonderful partnership that we have with Dimensions in Travel. As Jill mentioned, they're one of our top producers, and we work hand in hand with them to put together these incredible, memorable trips that are going to be things that your family remember for a lifetime. A little bit about Classic, because this is a little unique what we're doing today, because normally Classic is a company that just works behind the scenes with your travel advisors. So a lot of consumers out in the marketplace may not be familiar with us. We're not a household name because we really work behind the scenes with the experts like our friends here at Dimensions in Travel. But we've been in the industry for over 42 years, and Hawaii is really where we started. In fact, we're so synonymous in the industry with Hawaii. A lot of times in my job, I have to remind people that we book other places besides Hawaii because we really just go hand in hand. People always just associate Classic Vacations in Hawaii because this has really been our bread and butter since we began over 42 years ago. And we're really in the business of building relationships. So that means with our partners at the hotel properties on the islands, with our tour operators, everyone that you encounter along the way, we have these long-standing, wonderful relationships with, just like your local travel advisor that you have at Dimensions in Travel. And that's how we bring this all together and make the perfect trip for you. So, of course, being a travel advisor has never been an easy job. I'm sure your travel advisor has probably told you that before. And 2020, of course, was an exceptionally difficult year for all of us in the industry. But for those of you who are working with a travel advisor at Dimensions in Travel, you already know the value that they bring. And for anyone, which I think was probably most of us here, who had to make changes to their travel plans in 2020, you know what an incredible asset they were to have someone to advocate for you, to call all the airlines, to go to the hotel websites, to make all the changes, to unravel all of that and put it back together for you again. And so what Classic has really been focusing on in the past year is to make wonderful tools to make our travel advisor partners' lives easier so that they can find all of that information that's so important for us to have now as far as safety protocols, the latest rules and restrictions about visiting different destinations. We put that all together so that your travel advisor can easily find them and always know that they're giving you the most up-to-date current information about every destination, and in this case, specifically about Hawaii. Another thing that we do is we really can bring peace of mind to your travel experience. I hate to keep mentioning 2020 because it's kind of like a bad word now, but one of the things we all learned about 2020 is the importance of having peace of mind and incredible travel insurance. We have industry-leading coverage. I know we're all here to talk about fun, beautiful things like the beach and sunsets, and insurance is not that exciting to talk about, but that's why you have an expert at Dimensions in Travel. They'll be able to look at our incredibly comprehensive options and find the one that best fits the trip that you're taking, whether it's based on the price point, the type of air you've booked. We will have an insurance policy that fits perfectly to cover you so that you have complete peace of mind and know that you can travel, and that if there are any unexpected changes, if anything needs to be rearranged, canceled, or rebooked, you will be covered and you can sleep well knowing that that is taken care of for you. And the state of Hawaii has also done a really great job of being able to really keep the COVID epidemic under control there. We were just talking before we started here, and Dave said, well, they did have a little bit of an advantage because they're an island, which is certainly true. So they had that going for them. But one of the things they've really done, because of course, tourism is such an essential part of their industry there and their economy, is that they've made some really great, simple to use tech tools that make traveling a little bit less daunting for those of us who are traveling to the islands during this period. So they have this wonderful new app that they've developed called Aloha Safe. You download this for free, whether you have Android or Apple. It's free when you download via their stores. And Dave's going to tell you a little bit more how this comes into play when it's time for you to get your testing done, when it's time for you to check in at the airport, and how they've done a great job of really streamlining this so that what seems like maybe at first might be a little bit of a daunting kind of maze to navigate is actually quite simple and efficient.
Perfect. Thank you, Joseph. So guys, ladies and gentlemen, nice to be with you today. To Jill and to Diana, thank you for the opportunity to kind of chat with everyone. As Jill said, Hawaii is my passion. Almost 30 years with Classic Vacations. We're a San Jose-based company. We're a division of Expedia. Started in the call center, and I've been selling Hawaii for all those years. As Joseph said, 2020 may be a bad word, but we are where we are. And from where I sit, I try to look at both mental health as well as, physical health. And I think everyone's got to figure out their path forward. Today, what I want to be able to talk about and share just a little bit, if you're comfortable traveling, then Hawaii is an awesome option for you. We'll walk through just a few things so you kind of get a handle. If you haven't been on a plane yet, or if you haven't gone to Hawaii yet since the beginning of COVID, we'll talk about that. I would like to start just by sharing a couple of facts with you. Being here in California, as maybe most or almost all of us are, we hear about what's going on in this state. We're a big state, I think around 50 million people. Sometimes we hear things about other places, but a lot of times California centric. I was sharing with Jill and Diana just before we began the call that yesterday in Hawaii, in the entire state, they only had 17 new infections, 17. Now, if you're in Southern California or if you're in other places, the last time those areas had 17 infections in one day was probably at the very beginning of the pandemic. And I would highlight in Hawaii yesterday, there were no deaths. So the state has done a really good job of setting up travel protocols, as well as maintaining a very safe environment with the local population, which has allowed travel to return. So if you followed the story of Hawaii in the COVID era, Hawaii was closed for a while, as Joseph alluded to. They're an island, so they're able to kind of put a stop to everything. And so again, they focused on the local communities and getting things under control, things that we've done here in California and other places in regards to social distancing, mask wearing, and all of that good stuff. But then over, towards the latter part of the summer, they started to work on protocols to reestablish a level of tourism back into Hawaii. And so, I would watch Governor Ige's Facebook or his press conferences on Facebook, Lieutenant Governor Josh Green of Hawaii. So I was waiting for that moment in time when I could make my first journey, which I did do for Thanksgiving in 19. And, everything went so smoothly. And again, as I said at the beginning, y'all have to figure out your own risk tolerance for travel. Maybe for some, travel closer to home will be better, which is great. But if you do need to get away, because it's been a long journey to date with COVID, I believe that you can plan a trip to Hawaii today and do it safely and not create for yourself a tremendous amount of anxiety. And part of what I want to do today is again, share my own experiences, because I won't deny that, when I went for my first COVID test at SFO Airport, it's like, what is a COVID test? How does it work? How far are they going to put it up my nose? All of these things create a level of worry and concern, or, possibly that, you could be asymptomatic and not be aware of it. Having said all that, we offer all of the legacy carriers in the United States. I want to focus on 3 today. I'm assuming most of the folks on the call or who will listen later are more West Coast centric. So we'll talk about Hawaiian, United, and Alaska. I really like these 3 carriers in particular because they contracted for COVID testing in partnership with the air carrier. So when my first trip was United, I booked my flight. And then it said, hey, Dave, you got to organize your COVID test. Do you want to do mail-in or do you want to do the drive-through? Well, I was close enough to go to the drive-through. So I did. And, I thought, oh my gosh, how is this gonna work? Are there gonna be a million cars? Am I gonna be nervous? Well, there was one car ahead of me, and that was all. The lady was very nice. I rolled down the window. She gave me the tube. She said, 10 swirls in each nostril. I gave it back to her. And by that night at midnight, the test results came back to my email. So my recommendation, again, after you consider your risk tolerance, after you talk to your advisor at Dimensions, talk to your family, I would recommend one of these airlines. They all have established COVID partners that have been approved by the state of Hawaii. It's critical that you use a COVID testing partner that has been approved by the state of Hawaii, because not all providers have been approved. Alaska has a partnership with Carbon Health. Hawaiian has either drive-through or a partnership with Vault. The United option at SFO, the drive-through, is colored by United. So again, you take the test, you get the results, you upload it to the Safe Travels Hawaii website. Okay, first time it's a little bit confusing, but we are all generally familiar with websites and the need sometimes to complete our name, address, phone number, contact information, and all of that. So once you complete the Safe Travels website, load your information relative to you or your family, add in the COVID tests, you hit submit, and you get a QR code. And then when you go to the airport, it's just like normal. If you have TSA, you do that. If you don't, you move through the other line. And you get to the gate, and they're going to want to see, your QR code. Now, there have been some advances since my last trip. I'm planning my next journey over, so I am looking forward to seeing what's come along since I traveled last. Joseph, if you wouldn't mind just going back to the contact tracing app slide. So the most recent thing that the state of Hawaii has done in conjunction with the University of Hawaii is the contact tracing app, developed by the state of Hawaii. This allows the state to monitor movement and also to be able to see if by chance you as a traveler have come into contact with someone that either is COVID positive or was around someone that may have been. I would highlight, privacy is preserved. None of your private data is transmitted. It is currently a requirement that you download this app and that it is used while you are in the state. So again, COVID test, easy peasy. I would recommend one of the options that are aligned with the air carriers that I had on the previous slide. You download the contact tracing app and you're pretty much ready to go. Except for, again, stock up on your masks. I recommend the N95s. Wear 2 if you're more comfortable. And off you go. Joseph, can you move forward one slide, please?
Yep.
It's also really important for you guys to know that all the Hawaii partners are all in on protecting everyone's health, your health, the family, the health of your families and loved ones, as well as their employees. So protocols have been established by these global hotel companies in conjunction with the Mayo Clinic and other leading US health institutions in regards to how the room is clean, how long the room is kept unoccupied between guests, what protocols will be established when you arrive. So on my Thanksgiving trip, I arrived to the Fairmont Kealani Maui, and the bellman did a temperature check. And then I went to the front desk, and I'd received paperwork when I moved through the airport upon arrival. They had, I was one of the first people off the plane. When you get off the plane in Hawaii, that you'll notice that let's say I call them the COVID folks, the COVID, checking the COVID documentation, they wear yellow smocks. And she said, go to table number 8. I showed them my QR code from the phone. And I think we've all gotten pretty comfortable with QR codes these days. I didn't use them before the pandemic, but I think they're pretty darn cool now. I don't have to touch anything, but someone can scan my QR code and get the relevant information that they need. And he just checked everything and sent me on my way, and I got my card off. I went to the hotel, as I mentioned. And then at check-in, I showed them, my paperwork. I had a pink form, and I was, quarantine free. And off I went. And every property that I went to, either the first trip for Thanksgiving to Maui or the second trip for Christmas to Big Island, all of the partners from the air carriers to the airports to the hotels are doing a great job. And there's a strong commitment to protecting your health and the health of your loved ones. So if you are at that point where you want to, you need that break from the daily grind of what's going on here in California or wherever else, Hawaii is really that perfect place to go. I would share with you one additional new enhancement that I really think is a very nice piece. And someone just asked me about the second test, and I'll comment on that in a moment, because I did do that on Big Island. The latest update to the protocols for the state of Hawaii really is to create efficiencies for you, the traveler. So when you board the aircraft now, and Jill, you may be able to comment on this because maybe you've come back sooner than I have, they will give you a bracelet. And the bracelet allows you to bypass talking to the folks at the airport in Hawaii. So United, Hawaiian, and Alaska are all doing this. Alaska started it, but all three of these carriers are. So first of all, it was standing up the protocols, the hotels, making sure you're going to be healthy. And now again, they're smoothing out the rough edges of any of the travel experience to make sure that it's seamless and easy and healthy for you. Jill, did you want to add something?
I just wanted to add quickly, Dave, I was coming through the airport today, actually up in Seattle, and Alaska very prominently, that just happened to be the area I was in, prominently has a large signage out there that talks about the pre-waiver, the pre-check-in for that. So, they're well and truly set up. This is not a off-the-cuff kind of process that they have. And it's down pat. So it does make it wasn't available when I went, but it certainly helps speed up the process, and it's a less chaotic when you get there. So thank you.
Yeah. So again, the state is committed to continuing to develop their protocols to ensure the health of everyone all the way around, and then making it efficient. Someone was asking about Big Island. So for Christmas, I took my sister. We got off the plane at the Kona airport. I generally think they segment state of Hawaii residents from mainland residents. I kind of think most mainland residents are put into a secondary queue for the secondary antigen testing. And it's rapid antigen testing versus the PCR test that you get that is required to make the trip over the water. But anyways, we filled out a little form. There was a gentleman in a white outfit. He swabbed our nose. He said, if you don't hear anything from us, everything is great. Have a wonderful trip. We passed through the secondary testing facility at the Kona airport in less than 10 minutes. And again, off we went to get our car to start our journey. Jill?
Dave, would you also agree, I had heard this the other day, that, if someone does want to do more than one island, in the past, we've always encouraged people for the first time over to Hawaii to go to Oahu first and then go to an out island. But I believe I'm correct in that if you go to the out island first, when you fly into Oahu, there's no more testing.
Yes, and that's what I did on my Thanksgiving trip. I was there for about 3.5 weeks. I did most of it in Maui, and then the last 5 to 7 days or so, flew to Oahu and did my thing there before coming back over the water to the mainland. So yes,
Great.
You definitely would want to finish up in Oahu. And again, I would just add, everyone has to figure out where they sit in this time and place. If you look at the 3 main islands available for travel today, I'll speak to Kauai in a moment, but Big Island is going to offer the most social distancing and probably the least amount of COVID of the major islands, other than maybe Kauai. Maui, next, and Hawaii being the biggest population center, I think, I think, as I mentioned earlier, I think there were 17 infections noted on the yesterday, and the majority of them were on Oahu. And so y'all can decide, I found going to the Big Island completely liberating because, the properties have a lot of acreage, things are spread out, and you can stay as far away from folks as you would like. Someone's asking about Kauai. I honestly don't recommend Kauai right now. For me, it's too complicated. I wouldn't do it. The requirements to go into Kauai are too onerous, in my opinion. So I am bringing a personal point of view to this. Y'all have to decide if you want to try to navigate that. Your Dimensions advisor can help you do that, but it is going to be more complicated. I might recommend or make a small suggestion that if Kauai is your favorite island, maybe put that off for later in 21 or 22. I would highlight there does appear to be some movement in the Hawaii legislature. There may be a bill coming forward which would drive push all the islands to have the same protocol for entry. And so we'll see how that bill makes its journey through the Hawaii legislature versus each of the counties doing its own thing, which can be extra kind of complicated. And again, as Joseph said, we put together a tool for the Dimensions advisors to use to figure out what are the protocol requirements for each island, what's happening at each property, so that they can give you a perspective and give you options and choices. Joseph, can you move forward a slide? So before you talk about the value add, and I have a few more slides after Joseph speaks to this slide, but I would want to just begin to leave you with a thought, and I'm sure maybe Jill would agree as well. When you're in Hawaii, there are strong protocols for your safety, but at the same time, you almost feel a little bit like it's pre-pandemic. And you can breathe. Yes. I don't know how you all feel about all the things that have gone on in the past year, but in a lot of ways, kind of heavy. Some more visible, maybe some more subtle for each of us. But in Hawaii, once you get there, with the assistance of Dimensions, with the support of Classic, we can help you navigate it. You figure your risk tolerance. You figure how much social distancing you want to bring into your travel plans, and we can keep you completely isolated. We can do a lot of different things. Jill, did you want to add something?
I would just, add to that, Dave, in that, we all still have to travel with the expectation that, we do need to wear masks, whether we're popping into the grocery store or the shops that are open and things like that, just like we are at home. But that sense of, wow, I got on a plane again. I get those beautiful breezes as I step, out of the airport, and, the Hawaiian culture and the Hawaiian people are just welcoming everyone with open arms. They know you've had your test. They know that you are being careful and cautious, and it's just a wonderful experience. And we felt, certainly as a family, that there were really, no restrictions placed on us. We were happy to be back in a place that we enjoy so much and supporting the local community. And it was the best mental health break we've all been on in a long time.
I agree. Joseph, maybe go back and just share with the folks on the call today, a few points around some of the value adds, the deals or specials that are available right now in Hawaii.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Jill. It's so nice to hear, from people, of course, who have been there recently and have some firsthand experience with all of this. And, piggybacking on what they said, I haven't been to Hawaii, unfortunately, in the past year, but I did do a little bit of traveling. And just like Dave and Jill are saying, it is more than ever. I mean, obviously, we all enjoy going someplace beautiful for vacation, but this past year, you'll appreciate it on a whole different level. Having been stuck at home for so long, like we all have, and being so restricted in our day-to-day activities, being on a beach or, just being in a place like Hawaii with fresh air and a change of scenery is, I think, such an incredible thing for your mental health right about now. And everyone I know personally who's gone there in the past year, or at least since it's been open, has had nothing but rave reviews and not a single person I've spoken to regretted anything about going. And what may have daunted them a little bit in the beginning, a test or uploading an app, you forget about it once you're there because it's so completely worth it, and you would be happy to jump through even a few more hoops if you needed to for the sense of I think relief that people feel being able to travel again and get outside of their homes. So that being said, when you reach out to your Dimensions and Travel advisor, we do have some fantastic deals going on. This is something we always have the added value in addition to our expertise in the destination. We have these, contracts that we have with local operators there and longstanding relationships that allow us to have really competitive promotions as well. So at the time we have takeoff to Hawaii, we have triple upgrades available through Alamo Rental Car if you're renting a car there. Hotel specials with some of the top properties on the islands, from Oahu, Maui, Kauai, and Hawaii. Of course, as Dave mentioned, Kauai is a little bit more tricky right now, so you'd probably want to be focusing at this point on Oahu, Maui, and the big island of Hawaii. But we have a lot of packages where when you meet a certain minimum number of nights stay, you get included an additional free night, in addition to the upgrades from Alamo, and also special amenities like free breakfast at certain properties as well. Dave, did you want to add anything to that before I let you talk a little bit about your two most recent trips there?
Sure. I mean, again, we've been selling Hawaii for 42 years. We have very deep relationships. Some of the value-added promotions or deals that we have are more, exclusive. They're not public deals. So in collaboration with your advisor, again, figuring out what your budget is, what type of social distancing experience you want. Do you want to be at a big property? Do you want to be at a small property? Which island do you want to be on? Even I've encouraged a lot of people to consider making the investment in first class these days. The prices are very good across the water, gives you more space, makes you feel better. So again, we've been doing this a long time, as has Dimensions. So we just need to know more about what you need, what you want, what you're worried about, what you'd like to try, and we'll figure it out and give you the options, and then you can go ahead and pick. And maybe if you'll just move two slides, was it one slide, two slides, one slide forward maybe? I know that Gina, I saw a question come up from her on the little screen here. So let's just talk a little bit about, and please, I have no issue with the questions. So I have a little hard time seeing them with my glasses, so we'll try. Gina talked about restaurants. So the top picture is the tempura lobster at Kealani. I can't remember where I had the ahi, but it was wonderful. So restaurants, tables that are spaced, people wear masks, it's all good. Keep in mind the temperature is different. It's not winter, so open air is awesome. Shorts are, people are just dressed as they would be in Hawaii. Not every F&B or food and beverage outlet at each property is open. So for example, in November at Kealani, only Ko was open. So they were doing breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So the pool restaurant was closed, though they were serving food at the pool. They just had one central kitchen that would work. And again, yes, I saw 5 at a table, like a family, right? So they would put a family together. And if necessary, they moved tables down to the pool deck, down the steps from the normal restaurant, to make it kind of work so that everyone could be comfortable. So I would say generally, I'll be honest, I think the first morning, I honestly, I did go to McDonald's. I did do drive-through. I did do, use the app to purchase my Egg McMuffin and my coffee. I was just kind of like getting used to everything. And again, I went kind of right after it just opened, so fewer things were open. But then it's kind of like, oh, well, things are kind of open here. It's not like on the mainland. I kind of had to do a twist, from what I had gotten used to on the mainland, where everything was closed, and we were all running to the supermarket to buy toilet paper and wipes. And it was so very different there. So I would say, to you, Gina, if you want to eat at the restaurants, they're open. If you would prefer to go to the supermarket and get takeout, that's an option too. I was a frequent visitor to Foodland. I like their poke. So, I would just put that in the refrigerator and I was handy dandy. And honestly, on that first trip, I did go to McDonald's every day just because it was just easier. And I was just trying to get used to how all of this would work. All I would highlight from these pictures, again, I think for those of you that have been to Hawaii many times, you get it, you know it. It's a beautiful place, and it's as beautiful as ever. It's just, they're not selling more than 50% occupancy. You don't have to have housekeeping if you don't want it, but you can. Not all the restaurants will be open, so we do need to manage expectations. You can certainly go to the market and get food to go, which I did. And you can still drive around to all the different places. Like I like the town of Mauna Kea, which is kind of halfway up the mountain to upcountry Maui. And, the stores were open, and I went to an Italian restaurant. And again, the windows were open, and I did my thing. So you don't have to worry about food. You just have to figure out what you're comfortable with. And you can, each and every person or family can find their own path. I think someone might have asked too about experiences. I think the point on experience is a little bit more complicated today than pre-pandemic. I would honestly recommend doing some of it through the hotel. We have always done and set up experiences for our travelers, but right now still a lot of vendors are closed. We're not exactly sure what people are doing. So I don't want to lead people, I can do the hotel, I can do the air, I can do the car. I've got great insurance. But if you really want to do a lot of experiences, you may want to see what's happening at the hotel right now, just to make sure that the operator is open, functioning, and can give you what you need. Okay. And Joseph, if you just flip to the next slide for a moment. Jill, did you want to add something?
Just briefly, in our experience, and we were a party of 12, and there were some things that we found we could do privately because, the size of the whale watching boat or snorkeling trip or things like that. So just wanted to give people reassurances that there are opportunities to do things that will be just, your group of friends, your family, that kind of thing. And Dimensions in Travel can help you navigate some of those choices as well. So we can work in conjunction with Classic and the hotels and make sure that we know ahead of time what's available to you.
And so then, in terms of the December trip, so there's my poke from Foodland, and keep a couple of those in the refrigerator, and you're always ready to go. I did want to highlight, the bottom picture is the New Year's Eve luau at the Fairmont Orchid, and so the luau's have come back. They are running, and actually, I think the changes that they have made, which are consistent across all of the different hotel companies that I'm familiar with. If you're a party of two, they put you at a table for two. There are no mixed tables. I think someone made reference to a family of five. Well, if you're a family of five, they're going to put you at a table for five, and they will move you to the buffet as a party of five. And they will have servers serving the food. So it was, you know, when my sister and I arrived to the luau, you know, you checked in, there was a temperature check, you know, they went through the rule, you know, the protocol, the rules of the evening, which is different than how it was before. And it moved beautifully. You can see the setting is beautiful. The music and entertainment were just as you would normally expect. And it was a beautiful New Year's Eve. And you can happily do a
Dave, you there?
Dave, we might have just lost you there for a minute.
Well, we'll see if he comes back there. These pictures
Okay.
are really making me want to go there right now. It looks so beautiful.
And again, as Jill said, you know, people are wearing masks, but the temperature is warm and people are in shorts, crowd your space. It feels very much pre-pandemic. And really the point on the two slides in the lower left, I mean, if you really do want the most social distance that you can get, I would highly recommend the Big Island. And a property like the Fairmont Orchid is great. I mean, honestly, occupancies on the Big Island these days are no more than 30 to 40%, which they just don't have a lot of people. You know, right now the state of Hawaii is accepting, I believe, around 7,000 travelers a day. And that is down from like, you know, 30 to 40,000 pre-pandemic. So, you know, you land at the Kona airport, it's all open air. I did the secondary antigen testing, you get the car and off you go. And, you know, stayed at the Fairmont, went to Mauna Kea. The first, the panoramic picture earlier in the presentation was of the Mauna Kea beach. I would highly recommend the Copper Bar at Mauna Kea. I ate there twice. Open air, you know, it's not as formal, but you know, again, like you said, Jill, I watched because it was, you know, it was festive. There were large families all together at their tables, and then there was, you know, me and my sister, and over in our corner, you know, doing our thing. And there was the lady doing the hula. And if you like fish, you know, they have it, and they have mud pie, and they have all kinds of fun stuff. So, you know, from my standpoint, you know, just kind of maybe closing on some of my experiences, I think either Joseph or Jill hit it on the head. You know, I could breathe, I could relax. You know, I'm more comfortable being a little distant. I don't like crowds anyways. So, you know, I could find my space on the beach and play in the water, and I was happy. I was okay with room service, but you don't have to have it. All the rooms that I stayed in had, you know, kind of like masks and the little wipes, you know, so it was all very good. I would highlight one thing that I loved at the Fairmont Orchid. They have a QR code that you can access, and it's kind of like the best of all their restaurants. So you can just order from the QR code and pick it up at the pickup place. You can order from Brown's Beach House. You can order from the pool restaurant. You can order from the bar in the lobby, which, you know, some of these things are closed. But if you just want to sit on your balcony, which many people and many families were doing, they would just order, like all of us are ordering food to go. Just order food to go at the hotel, hamburger, whatever you want, and you can have it on your balcony, and you know, bring a fake candle and create a mood, and you know, it'll be very, very nice. So, Jill, did you want to add some thoughts?
I would, Dave, just a couple of things, those great pointers that you shared. And for those that are on the event or listening in today, if you've been to Hawaii before, there's not a bad time of year to go. It's great weather all the time, but you are never going to have this opportunity again to be there with such low numbers. It's going to feel like off shoulder season. We're all trying to liken it to, is it like May? Is it like September? And truly now it's a lovely time to be there. And when things, ramp back up again and more people are going, that will quickly change. So if you're ready, now is really the time to go. You will have a wonderful trip. You will not be, I think as Dave said, it's always the first time you do something. So the first time you test, the first time you're arriving and things are a little bit different, but soon, I would say within 24 hours, you'll be relaxed, you'll be enjoying yourselves, you'll be, visiting places that you've enjoyed before, you'll be trying some new things, and now's the time to go. It just couldn't be better.
Yeah, and I would add, I did include, and I'm happy that Jill, that you and Diana share this. I did add my Instagram account on the front slide. I love taking pictures. I love taking pictures with my phone. So if you go to my Instagram, you'll see Santa Fe, New Mexico. You'll see Hawaii. You'll see a few things, but you'll see more of Hawaii than just what I posted. And if you want to ask me any questions post our time today, to Jill and to Diana, I'm more than happy. The advisor can contact me if you want me to if you want me to talk to the client too. I'm happy to collaborate, or whatever you want to call it, help them get comfortable or make their choice. Happy to do whatever I can. Love Hawaii. It's a great part of the United States. I want to encourage you all to go, but I realize it's your choice and you got to figure out your tolerance for all this. But I'm planning again. I'm going to go to that socially distant Hana on Maui, so it's perfect.
Good.
And try a few other things just to kind of see what's happening. And I would maybe close by saying, building on what Jill said, you're never going to have this low of occupancy. Okay. You're never going to get the type of dollar value that you're going to get today. You're never going to get first class fares if you want them as cheap as they are. You're not going to have to fight for a reservation. Like the bottom picture there was on my walk between the Fairmont Orchid and Mauna Kea Bay. You can walk just everywhere and not be around anyone unless you want to be. And went to Roy's, went to Tommy Bahama twice, ate at the hotel restaurants, as well as McDonald's, because I like everything. And if you haven't been to McDonald's in Hawaii, you should, even if you just go for a coffee, a senior coffee, check the menu, because they do have a lot of local Hawaii options that they would not have on the mainland. And if you want to just try some other things, just because, hey, why not? It's out there. So check my Instagram, lots of pictures of the islands through the years. Happy to talk to you. And again, thank you for the time today. And if there's other questions, I'm not sure we covered them all, Diana or Jill, but happy to.
I think we've covered most of the questions here. Usually everybody waits until the end, and this has been great. We've been fed lots of good questions as we go through. So, I would just say a huge thank you to Joseph and Dave today for sharing your insights and a little bit more about how Classic Vacations is working with Dimensions in Travel to help you plan the perfect trip at the perfect time when you're ready to go. And we will get back to you with more information. Of course, all of you that are on the call, your Dimensions in Travel advisor will follow up with you as well. And we're looking forward to helping you plan that wonderful Hawaiian vacation and get out of town.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Joseph and Dave, for being with us today. I am planning my own trip to the Big Island, so I've been listening raptly to everything that you've said, and it has eased some of my concerns about going. I haven't even ever had a COVID test before, so you're right. You just have to get through that, and there's paradise waiting on the other side.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Bye,
And
everyone.
Thank you so much. Mahalo.
aloha. Mahalo.
Aloha. Bye.
Bye.